Gotta go. Yeah, I'll call you back. I'm with that realtor lady.
In every real estate transaction, something comes up that the buyer or seller may have a question about. But in the heat of the moment, the question goes unanswered. Each episode, I talk with real estate experts and real estate vendors to provide a look at what goes on behind the scenes in the real estate world to get you answers. I blend in local Santa Cruz history, add some tips and tricks, all designed to help you be successful in your next real estate project. Tell your friends you can't talk right now because you are with the Realtor Lady. Hey, it's Michele Replogle, and you are with the Realtor Lady. I don't ask this enough, and I need to ask more, but could you please subscribe? I would so appreciate it. It helps my channel grow. If you could like, share, rate, I would love that. It would be so helpful. I'm super excited about today's episode. It's with Caylie Soon. She works with the city of Santa Cruz. We're going to talk about my favorite subject, garbage. I really am a garbage geek. I just feel that it's really important how we throw stuff away. I mean, we worry about buying stuff, but what are we doing with it? But today's about composting, so it's just on food waste. I hope you enjoy. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This is Michele Replogle. You are with the Realtor Lady. And today we have Caylie Soon. She is with the city of Santa Cruz. She is a waste reduction assistant. Today we're going to talk about the new composting law. I might even be saying that. It might be a composting ordinance. I don't know. I might have it wrong completely, but she's going to explain. Now, it is for the city of Santa Cruz, but I understand this is being rolled out throughout the state. This is a state.
Exactly.
Okay.
So this is across the entire state of California that everybody is probably going to be involved in some way or another. But of course, just like, any kind of state law, it's going to look a little bit different for each jurisdiction. So hopefully we can explain Santa Cruz's a bit today.
And I've been able to, so I'm coming up on a year, and I kind of go grab these topics that interest me, but then I find out once I get in like midway into the conversation, they really are a lot broader than I assume. And I think I'm excited about this because I think this is really something that's going to change how we look at garbage, this whole program. And so I will let you take it away. I think the first one is you were going to kind of explain how it came along and then go through the Santa Cruz interpretation of it. So explaining the law and then how we're applying it.
Yeah, definitely. So, right. So it's what's known as Senate Bill 1383, which again is a statewide bill. And its official name is the Short-Lived Climate Pollution Reduction Strategy.
That's the short name.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the quick official name. But basically, what it aims to do is reduce greenhouse gas emissions by reducing the amount of organic material that goes into the landfill. And the biggest impact there is, and this is again kind of geeking out in terms of trash and everything, but when organic material, and the big player in this law is food waste, right? And wasted food. But when organic material is decomposing in the landfill, anaerobically, meaning buried in the landfill, it off-gasses methane gas, which is a greenhouse gas that's about 25 times as potent as carbon dioxide, CO2. So this has a huge potential for big impacts on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So that's the motivation behind all of this. And, California has sort of always been a leader in environmentally driven policy. And this is just one more, that we can add to the list. And actually, in comparison with the rest of the country, this food law happens to be sort of the most aggressive because not only does it reduce that organic waste disposal, but it also has a portion that requires rescued edible food to be donated from bigger grocery stores and food suppliers and that kind of thing. So it's got a lot of pieces to it, but it's a heavy lift that's going to be well worth the while.
I want to jump in on a couple things. One is companies that have and we don't want to make companies the bad guy per se, but just putting a expiration date on a product so then they can bring in more product and literally just throw it away so they can actually
push more out? And is that going to be addressed in any of this, or how does that look?
That's a really good segue into sort of how we here in the city of Santa Cruz are hoping to shift the sort of customer education and the residential education. So we really in our office, and if anybody on this podcast has listened to the previous call I did about recycling, we in our waste reduction office really like to promote prevention in the first place. So what that looks like for food and wasted food is how can we avoid that wasted food in the first place? And as you said, Michele, expiration dates are just one component of, how we can learn to sort of interpret food that's gone bad. And yeah, the only FDA regulated expiration date that we find is on baby formula. Everything else is a suggestion, if you will.
Really interesting. Okay. And then another thought that came up, this is just so left field, but how some people were raised or some situations they've been in also has them hoarding food, which also creates a problem. So there's always that segue to how to help people understand where the food is not good for them. Of course, we don't want you to throw it away, but we also want you to understand when the food is past its viable date. So is there any education in any of that, or is it just please don't throw it away?
Well, yes, and I completely understand that, food hoarding mentality or a sale, you see that and you want to get all the food that you can in that moment because great, it's on sale. But when you really look at it at the end of the day, in the consumer's home is where we see the biggest portion of wasted food. And I think that's a source from Refed. And what that translates to is lost money as well. So while that sale might look good, you're also just kind of, for lack of a better word, you're throwing that money in the trash. And on average in the United States, 1 of every 4 grocery bags is sent to the landfill essentially, or not anymore, but becomes garbage. So if you think of it in that way, you may as well try to save money if you can. And maybe if you need to take an extra trip to the grocery store because you ran out of something before you thought, then maybe not so bad instead of wasting the money. So
that's so tough. Alan, my husband, just bought 3 bananas that are slowly turning very brown. He was very optimistic. I was not optimistic at all. We don't eat bananas anymore. So I think there's a lot. You can't blame people for being optimistic. So we found out the methane was really, really, here's my other thought with the methane is that when I have talked to people after going through the classes that people just think it just breaks down and no harm, no foul, like a compost. And I know you just kind of have to push that aside. You don't even really have time for that conversation because you actually have to just move into the new program. So that would be when you have that, what you've decided to, what the state has decided to do about the food waste. Now you, as a county or a city, you actually have to go and interpret it and decide how you want to roll that out. What is Santa Cruz doing to meet the requirements for this?
Right. Yeah. So the law doesn't specifically state that every jurisdiction needs to be turning the food to soil, or we might know it commonly as composting.
Right.
So it looks different for different jurisdictions, and again, City of Santa Cruz is unique in this way. So instead of composting it on an industrial scale, we will be sending it to be used as energy at our wastewater treatment facility, or currently we're sending it over the hill to a program called SAFE, which stands for Sustainable Alternative Feed Enterprises. And they're actually turning it into animal feed for animals with non-ruminant stomachs, so like pigs, for example. And according to the EPA, in terms of priority of food use, energy and feeding animals is higher sort of on the hierarchy than composting. So if you want to look at it that way, we're kind of using it at a higher level before composting it. But not to say if you're doing backyard composting, that is wonderful as well, because you're keeping it close to home. You're eliminating that transportation. So, and I will plug here to the city. If you're a City of Santa Cruz resident, we do offer a $40 rebate for home composting, and you can find on our city website It's just cityofsantacruz.com/home composting. If you qualify, there's some qualifications, but we do offer that for backyard composting if interested.
So right now we're sending it, but we have this lovely machine up there at DeMayo Lane. So what does it do?
Yeah. So once we get tours back up and running, hopefully some of you can join us on a tour and we'll talk about that. But so that machine is what we like to call our pre-processor. And that basically is where the food goes through all these augers and is sort of turned into a mash, and it gets screened out for, contaminants and all this kind of thing. And then that final mash is what we're able to send over the hill to the safe to be turned into animal feed, or we can send it to the wastewater treatment facility to be converted to the energy. So we are still utilizing that machine, definitely as a preprocessor.
We just got it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, because, going up there, it could look like something different or, it might be involved with industrial composting, but it has a completely different function. So.
And I didn't know that. I know my husband and I when we go up to the dump, he always asks me about it. And I was like, I think they're using it. And he's like, it doesn't look like it's used at all. I'm like, I think it's being used.
Yeah, it has a lot of capacity, and we're just not at the full capacity yet since we're still rolling out the program. But that it's got a lot of working parts that can do a lot, but we're just not quite there yet. And we have been we've been working on smaller projects to build up to where we are currently. So one of those was actually a commercial restaurant pilot within the city where we...
Yeah. Tell me how that's going. I see the yellow cans. I'm always so curious because of, pests and
so the yellow cans, actually, the ones that you've been seeing, those might be actually county containers.
Okay. Good call. Thanks for pointing out.
Yeah, definitely. So for any listeners on the podcast right now, there is a small distinction between city and county. We're a little bit different. And I'd recommend, always check with your local guide and jurisdiction on what they're doing with food scraps and what you can do with your scraps. But the county will be, as far as I know, combining it with the yard waste in their yard waste cart. Whereas in the city of Santa Cruz, residents, for example, will be getting a separate pail, which I got some show and tell. So yeah, so this is about a 6-gallon pail, and single family homes within the city of Santa Cruz will be receiving this in the next year, we're saying. And we're going to start rolling it out sort of on the east side of town, and then going west starting in early summer, late spring. But as you mentioned with the pest situation, so with these, we did a pilot with residential, with a neighborhood.
Did you get test raccoons?
We
just happen to have these raccoons on standby, and they come test everything for us.
Yeah, we rented some circus raccoons to come play. But no, we had really good feedback from residents. No pests, so it has a little bit of a locking mechanism. There's sort of these little ears on the lid that get locked under the container. And yeah, there were no issues with pests, and everyone liked the size of it and everything. So we piloted that for, I think it was probably 6 to 8 months or so.
Yeah.
It has been working out really well.
So for people who are listening, this podcast is also posted on YouTube under the Realtor Lady. So if you want to see the can, it's there, or go on the website. I'm sure there's a picture of the can somewhere there as well.
Yeah. And we'll be giving out some postcards too, with some directions and images, and so everybody's nice and comfortable.
Right. And feel free to even send me a video to post on my everywhere to have even just a little display or a little how-to video.
Yeah, definitely. I'll let you in on a little back secret. We actually just filmed a video for it specifically that will be available for everybody.
Yeah, you can always send it to me. I'll post it. So, we have the can, and this is planning for the next year to start rolling those out.
Exactly. So, commercial businesses is a different beast. So those we've been prioritizing and working on and piloting for a while just because they produce massive amounts. But residents should expect to begin, or we're going to begin the rollout, as I said, on the east side, beginning late spring. We're still waiting for our big truck delivery of all of those. So as soon as those come, we're we're gonna get
Start
started.
rolling them out. Is there any county in the state of California that you've gone and studied or looked at that kind of has a good program or an
Um,
idea?
yeah, me and everyone in my office is always on calls that include both, close regional and then statewide groups and people similar to myself. So we really try to keep the conversation open and observe what's worked for other people. But again, it's unique to every jurisdiction. So while we can pick and learn from everybody's experience. And there aren't many jurisdictions that have already implemented something. Berkeley and San Francisco have sort of had something for a while, but again, we have to tailor it, to work for us. So it's always a learning game.
Well, what I was going to add when you said, Santa Cruz is always kind of on the forefront and we're doing this stuff. I was going to add in there that Santa Cruz also demands it, because I know the compost has, when we were in our recycling class, it was just like we all kept getting asked, when is a compost program coming? I got asked a lot, and I was like, I don't know. We haven't really talked about it, and I compost at home, so I wasn't really in tune to anything that was coming down the pike. So
Here we are.
I did see a commercial that was, I don't know for what company. Oh, I know. I wanted to send it to you. I'm sorry, I should have. It's a machine. It's a countertop machine that composts.
Yep.
And
yep, I know exactly I think it's Lumi.
It's Lumi, yeah. It's pretty impressive. Have you guys tested one?
We haven't. We would like to play with one and just check it out. But interesting that you bring that up, because we just kind of caught wind of it in our office maybe a couple weeks ago, and it's we're intrigued, and we're remaining just questioning, curious. But yeah, I can't say much about it. I have to learn more about it, but I don't know.
Maybe one of the recycling students would get one. I would think that is almost part of your research, to make sure you don't have somebody who thinks that they're doing the right thing and then find out that that's actually, because that's what we learn. The more we learn about kind of garbage, the more we learn about what we're doing wrong, and not necessarily that it can't be fixed or adjusted. I think one of the worst things I learned about in the class, it would be better for me to throw things away, because it was actually more taxing on the system to try to force recycling. Those are those ugly things about this business to educate people on. So while that looks so lovely, I'll talk to the city budget person for you to buy you one, because I think that might be part of the education process of making sure that.
Yep, I know. It's back to the recycling, right? There's all these things that come out with the symbol or that say a number or something, and we're like, oh, of course. And that's a good point for us to transition into actually what can go into this food scrap container.
Yes.
So within the city of Santa Cruz, it's super, super simple and basic. Only food materials, but
food. Okay.
Yep. But that one of the benefits of our program is that you can put meats, dairies, fats, bones, avocado pits, which you can't typically put in a backyard compost.
That was gonna be my first question.
Yeah. So that's some of the great feedback that we've heard from our residential pilot, is that a lot of people were backyard composting already, which is wonderful. But at the end of the day, they were still throwing away their meat bones and their dairy and pits and citrus peels into the trash. So this, will eliminate that. And I will show, this is, we've got lots of outreach and stuff that we're developing, but this, let's see if I can get the right light, is a pretty
over just a little bit more
easy breakdown.
There we go. Yes, perfect.
So it's pretty, the top is obviously all food
no
material.
Liquids, no food soil paper, no food packaging. Okay. Yeah. everything else. Yeah, we eat a lot of, well, we don't eat a lot. We have a lot of fish around, so we get stuck with fish stuff.
Yeah, that too. You don't want that in your backyard compost. It could draw critters and whatever if you're not super duper maintaining it.
It doesn't matter how deep you dig it, they will dig it up. So we've stopped doing it. It could be 6 feet under and they will dig it up.
Yep. So, yep, this program is a good alternative to that. And I did forget to mention, I don't know if there are anybody listening that lives in a multifamily complex, but they will be participating as well. And we do hope to, usually at multifamily complexes, it looks like a sort of shared enclosure, right? Or a shared dumpster. So to sort of incentivize multifamily units to participate, we'll probably be giving one of these pails out or offering this pail as a countertop container with one of these stickers on there as a guide. And then that the units would take it to that centralized disposal station. But just another sort of incentivizing program that we can offer multifamily residents.
And that's just kind of hoping as a buy-in, really.
Yeah, exactly. Because we want as much participation and we want to make it easy, and simple. And I think, again, like I said, because we're only accepting food, it eliminates that confusion of like, oh, can my to-go product go in there? Can my, piece of paper or any of that? So it's just, nope, just food.
Just food. Yeah, that's the other thing where the Lumi might cause some problems is it shows them putting compostable materials in there.
It's so interesting. I'm going to have to look into that.
Look into that. And okay, so we're in a trial right now. And what have you found? Pros, cons? What's been the...
Definitely. So again, I will say in terms of residential feedback. So we've got a couple different residential pilots going. We have that curbside one where we've rolled out that pail to about, there's been about 80 participants with that. And then we also have a drop-off program where we have local sites with bear boxes that we've given access to people who apply. And there are about 300 participants there at the top at 2 separate locations. And amazingly, contamination was almost zero. Sometimes we would get, plastic bags that people would throw in, which another part of this, we don't want any bags. No
bags.
No paper bags, no plastic bags. Yeah, just keep it loose. You're welcome to line your home, your countertop, but want it all loose in there. But surprisingly, through the residential pilots, it was very clean, very good feedback. And our equipment functioned well for everybody. And it gave us a huge opportunity to play with that awareness piece. So, the whole community-based social marketing idea, the neighborhood that we rolled this out in, people would go on walks and then give us a call and say, hey, I want one of those. Cool. When can I get mine? Kind of thing. So it gave us an opportunity to say, oh, yep, you'll be getting it here, but maybe you can, prevent your wasted food in the meantime. And so it's been a really great learning experience for us for sure.
Besides the plastic bag, is that the only rub?
Pretty much. Yeah, like we've seen, well, as we roll this out, like you kind of said before, we just hope to not see the pattern with recycling and this idea of wish cycling and over recycling. We hope that by people having access to this food scrap cart right in their home, that it doesn't say, oh, I can let food go bad because I'm putting it in the food scrap container. So we're really, again, educating at the top, a higher level of like, still remember to prevent that food from going to waste. Just because we can now divert it doesn't mean that there weren't lots of resources that went into growing and creating that food in the first place, and the hard-earned money that was used to purchase it. So that's one of our sort of fears with the program is like, oh, we're going to make people feel comfortable with wasting more food or over recycling or over, so something that we'll have to.
I mean, the only thing that's really in your favor with that is it's getting more expensive. So there might be some more thought. I always thought, this is just, you're on my podcast, so you're stuck with me. But I always thought it would be nice if you kind of walked into a grocery store and they gave you a menu and where those items were. Like, here's a vegan menu, here's a vegetarian menu, and you walk in and they just say, you go to aisle 2, 5, and 7, and here's your dinner.
And you would think that would avoid over purchasing as you just meander through the store.
Yeah, and my husband really likes the grocery store, so he just buys stuff out of kind of optimism, and I'm just like, if we're not eating it, I don't want it. I'm not interested in that, funny looking squash or any of that. And the more organic fruits and vegetables that we've had access to, they're like right now, there's some tomatoes that are shaped like gourds almost, and they're really interesting. And I look at them and I think they're very interesting, but I'm not going to try one because I know, honestly, I'm probably not going to eat it.
And
But
I think we're all guilty of shopping with our eyes sometimes if something looks good or,
and it might, I mean, I don't think it would hurt the sales. I think it would just be kind of be more intentional in your shopping. So that's just where I think it would really help if people could just be focused a little bit more on what they put in their cart. But grocery stores might not like that. They might want you to just throw that stuff in there. No.
Yeah, and we are dedicating the month of April, and this is April 2022, but beyond,
yes.
It is Earth Day month, and then we're making it a theme of food too good to waste. So, it comes down to exactly educating about storage and purchasing habits and the expiration date and all this. So, if anybody's interested in that, you can find more information on our websites.
I would also see if you maybe at farmers markets, if you have people talking to people about how to use what's in their refrigerator to make stuff. I noticed that I'm very good at that where my husband's not. He'll look in the refrigerator and there's nothing in it. My poor husband, he's getting skewered on this one. Not normally, does he? He's getting really, but I can and my grandmother was really good in it too. It was just like, she could look at a bare fridge and there was still dinner in there. And I think it helping people understand, not necessarily a set menu, but did you know mac and cheese can be any cheese that you have as long as it's stable enough to hold up through the heating process? Or, your last bit, I'm always telling my husband, put the last vegetables in the spaghetti sauce because I love lots of stuff in my spaghetti sauce. And just teaching people that, no, really, you can just throw it in. It's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. That's a great tip. I totally agree. Yep.
Yeah. Maybe just getting some kind of foodies involved to help people expand where their food goes and how to, I cook a lot of berries. I don't eat a lot of raw berries. So I can kind of catch them on a little bit of the end, a little bit more.
And they're getting soft. Yeah. We hosted a spring webinar last year and had a local chef. His name was Diego Felix, and he is the chef for the Fila Fondix, the empanada place over on the west side. And he had all these awesome tips for, he would freeze his herbs in an ice cube and throw it in the pan for his pasta dish, or he made like chimichurris out of anything and everything. He was putting like citrus peel in there and all these spices and it would just add it on like shredded potato pancake, and there you go. You got your kid's breakfast.
Oh, you need to have him back. As long as the ingredients aren't too exotic. I know that I get very intimidated by some stuff. Like I'll read some stuff. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Is it a cheese? I mean, I don't even know what it is.
We just need salt and oil, right? And everything's good. A little salt and a little oil.
Well, actually, we don't eat a lot of butter, but I do like it. So my last question, and then I want to move into a little bit of packaging changes and compostable materials that are coming through. Are you having a hard time reaching the public? Do you think this rollout is going to be difficult, or do you think the interest in composting is enough to kind of spur you along?
Yeah, good question. Yes and no. No, because like you said, lots of people are interested, and when they see this pail out, they call us and ask us questions. So no, in that regard. But then also yes, because we have about 11,500 single family homes to reach out to, and inevitably there will always be people moving in and out to re-educate and get on board. But I think that, because it's statewide and it's, getting attention from the news, that will help boost at least the awareness. And then our part with education can come in to fill the gaps, if that makes sense. So yes and no.
Wow, it seems like if you change the color of the recycling can, you would start all over anew, and then maybe you could just change their thinking about it. Maybe if it wasn't blue, it was purple, you'd have everybody wondering what goes in there, and then you could re-educate them from the beginning. Because this little pail is fascinating them, and then they're going to learn about it.
Right. It's kind of like, wait, what is this? So it's easy, right? We're starting with a clean slate, ideally, right? And we can say, okay, just food, nothing else, please.
So then that leads to compostable packaging. That's probably always going to be a bane of your existence with this stuff. People are still going to try to sneak it in there thinking it's okay. So where are we in those products?
Yeah. So, right. They don't belong in this, at this time, at least in the curbside composting or food scrap program that we're offering. But, we just had an ordinance update come into play on the 8th of this month, which does require compostable PFAS-free containers. And we did that for a couple reasons. One, so that we are actually in the best position if we were to somehow, start industrial composting material that we do get. And two, this material specifically, these fiber-based materials that don't have the added PFAS chemical. PFAS is they call it a forever chemical. That's really bad for human health and the environment. So when those become litter, it's just kind of inevitable that once in a while those things become litter. We want what's going to do the least damage to the environment, and these types of packaging have proven that. But right, we want to make sure they don't go into our food scraps, especially because they are going to animal feed and energy. So if you think about it that way too, we don't want to feed these animals these, manufactured products, ideally.
Well, yeah, they could go still in a human system. So is there laws coming down to make sure that chemical isn't in there, or is there any?
So two things, actually. So our ordinance with the city of Santa Cruz, just went into play on the 8th of this month. So that ordinance bans PFAS in to-go-ware within the city of Santa Cruz. But the state also just passed something that bans PFAS, and their goal is, I think, 2024. It eliminates it in food service ware. But since we got ours into place early, again, even city of Santa Cruz and Santa Cruz in general is ahead of the curve within the state. So I think that we'll see this popping up more and more. San Mateo County already has a ban on PFAS material. So while it's hard to be, upfront and the leader, I think that it will, one day somebody be like, oh, remember when PFAS was banned? And
I wish so many others were banned. Okay, so pop quiz. We bought a package of eyeglasses at Costco in this package, and it says smartpacking.com paper foam. And it really acts like plastic styrofoam
is
thing.
So wild because Leslie, my supervisor, she brought in the exact same container last week. I know.
So crazy.
We're on the latest bit of trash. And what we did was break a piece off and put it in a glass of water to see what changed. Because water is, the universal solvent, and just see how it broke up. And it did break up into almost like, imagine if you put tissue paper in water, it took a little time, or even toilet paper, it really breaks down, and it kind of did that. And it felt sort of like a gel consistency. So physically it broke down, but chemically what's in there, we don't know. But we don't want it in the recycling cart. I will say that, because we don't know yet. So, and if, the people on the line saw that, they would take it off because it doesn't match our guide. But it's interesting, and something, again, like that Lumi composting, or is that what it's called? Lumi?
I don't know.
That composting. Just, it's interesting to watch all these products come up online, right? And what do we do with it? We have to learn, constantly a learning process and experimentation.
But, and I think I would rather encourage these companies to try than not do anything. Unfortunately, they probably get sold really toxic stuff and they don't realize they think it's something. I mean, in our little orbit, we've talked to these companies that had no idea that what they were being sold wasn't what it was. But the other thing I would say is Costco tries really hard to minimize packaging, and it's really it's cool. There's a lot of packaging involved with their stuff because you get so much of it, but at the same time, I've noticed a lot of it shrinking and tighter and less, and I think it's worth the applaud that they're giving it a go. Well, actually, let's just put it this way. I think they listen to their consumer. And it's not always just that there's a lot of packaging. Sometimes I find it very difficult to open.
Yeah. I completely agree. It's wonderful, the changes that we do see and the efforts and everything. And especially when it is a big, company like Costco. And you're right. I think they do listen to the consumer, and they want to be doing the right thing, right? It just takes time.
It's nice to do business with a company who really wants to do the right thing. They may not always be, but they want to be. Well, I think we've covered a lot. Is there anything you want to add?
I think the takeaway message is just, prevent wasted food before just throwing it into the food waste bin, and just, practice your prevention habits and try and watch your waste.
And probably just maybe if you're not sure if you're really going to cook it, just go ahead and don't buy it. I do that a lot. I'm just like, we're not going to get to it. Or if it can be frozen.
Yes, the freezer is your friend. Absolutely. Always. I forget that sometimes. Or like a banana, who knows when you want to make a quick smoothie with a banana. Freezer is your friend.
It really is. We've learned, let's see, pancake and waffle batter, garbanzo beans, or beans that you're not going to use the whole thing, go right in your freezer.
I saw an interesting one the other day, is avocado. Like, you mash the avocado and put it in an ice cube tray, and then you pop it back out, and I haven't tried that one, but it seems like the texture would change, but I don't know, worth a shot.
I guess it wonders how, well, a lot of the, like Chili's and Chevy's, I think all those restaurants, I think that's all frozen avocado products. So I'm sure it could be just probably it's probably how you're going to use it, like a guacamole, but maybe not for like fresh.
Yeah, right. Or a sauce.
There's just lots to think about. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and giving me the update. And then please reach out if there's anything else that you want to make sure that we kind of post. I will give you a copy of this. You can post all around. And then people can go on the City of Santa Cruz website. So what's the best way to find all the information?
Yep. So I would recommend cityofsantacruz.com/food waste. So simple. That's it. And you'll find resources. You'll find the webinar series, and then just more information about food waste prevention.
Will there be ways for people to find out when their neighborhood might be up to be getting the cans, or is that just the postcard?
It'll be the postcard is the best way to indicate when. Only, like I said, we're waiting on delivery and stuff. So yeah, just look for that postcard in the mail, and be sure to keep it, hold on to it, and don't toss it.
Very good. Well, I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. That's great.